So you want to be a designer anywhere, and you're thinking to yourself, shit, what now? Well, in this episode I talked to Francisco Rebello. He's a designer at S1T2, which is a creative technology studio, as he describes it, based in Sydney, Australia. We talk about skill versus mindset and how imposter syndrome can play a role in that, but then how also that can help push you to become a better designer and do an awesome job wherever you're based. Please remember to like, share and subscribe below. And as always, enjoy the episode. Hey Cisco, welcome to Shit One Now. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you're very welcome, and thank you for reaching out to me. Cisco, for those who've just logged onto the episode, can you tell us a bit about who you are and what you do?
I'm Cisco, short for Francisco. I'm a digital designer, and I currently work for a company called Story First, Technology Second, a creative technology studio based in Sydney. But I am originally from London and I have worked for over 8 years in London and studied there and grew up there.
Yeah, awesome. Great city, by the way. Lived there for 4 years. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Just on that as well, I was going to ask, how did you break into advertising? But you mentioned that you work for a design and creative studio now. So I guess a more appropriate question is, what's your journey? How did you get started?
I could tell you how I got into advertising. I'll briefly tell you my journey is like, I actually studied something completely different. I studied industrial design, which is like making physical things, making phones, making tables and stuff like that. And I feel like that still is true to what I do today because I want to make things that people use. But I realized I wasn't very good at all the physical bits of industrial design, and I was always good at the graphic side. And I focused on the graphic side, and they had like industrial placements at my uni, and I got a really good one with Disney Interactive Studios, which was really awesome, like for a whole year. But weirdly enough, because I didn't want to go into video games, which was what that was, it didn't really help me after uni. Like I still struggled to get a job, or at least the first job I got was like, it sounds random, is in this like Pimp My Ride car museum place. This guy collected.
That sounds awesome.
This guy collected American cars and redid them and sold them to like mostly African Premiership footballers. But it was kind of, I was the only graphic designer in this car business, like car workshop. There's what do you call it? Like mechanics and stuff walking through. We had a museum where we showed the cars and I was doing the graphics for that. But I still was like, it was a kind of good beginner job, but I wasn't yet in this like agency world. And I remember like reading like Computer Arts magazine, like the day in the life of the designer, like what did they do? And like still felt like an outsider. And then I found this through my local council, this like apprenticeship thing, and I apprenticed like with a graphic design small studio for like a few months. And that's when I was looking for junior jobs, going to agencies. I still wasn't sure what I was really. At 1 minute I'm going for a creative art worker in a experiential place. Next minute I'm going for a web design. And in the end, my break came from a kind of a failed job interview for a junior designer at this really cool agency, Collective London. But they really liked my personality and my passion, and they didn't hire any junior designer. They gave the job to a midweight and they advertised for an intern. And so when I emailed for the internship, they were like, yeah, come along. And it was a 3-month internship, and it was like really game changing. From before, like I'd be calling up recruiters and jobs and not getting much responses. But the thing that I love Collective for doing, they gave me client experience, but then they also worked with me to do redo my portfolio, like with their kind of thoughts and also with their new projects. And they gave me one like kind of intern project, which was to take one of their old briefs, Gatorade, and come up with 2 pitch designs for that. And like after that, I got a job like within like a few days. Like people were calling me, yeah, can you come on Wednesday? I was like, I can't believe this. And I started off as a junior in Iris, Iris Worldwide in London, working on like being like the brands they worked on were massive, like Adidas and things like that. But obviously, like a junior, doing like whatever work. And I think from then I moved into a smaller. I left advertising. I felt like it wasn't the kind of design life that I wanted. And I moved to like a product design studio, which was more closer to what I studied. Like we're solving problems with apps for like people paying their bills, different things. And then from there, I went to Publicis Sapient as a senior designer, which was a bit of a jump. I kind of got like they emailed me, and I thought I like it was a bit of a jump. I could have stayed at my smaller studio, but at Publicis Sapient, I kind of was on pitches and like big websites, but I weirdly found my niche in kind of a boring project, which was like a NatWest banking app. But it was a kind of gave me a great skill, which was like product design. So when I decided I wanted to go to Australia, this is a long story. I was supposed to move to Melbourne, and I moved to Melbourne, and I got all my contacts from Sapient, from everyone in London. I met people from AKQA. I met contacts, had interviews, had a job offer, and someone had told me about this Facebook group called Find a Freelancer. And so I posted my portfolio in there, and someone from S1T2 messaged me like, would you consider working in Sydney? And I was like, thinking, yeah, maybe sometime in the future. I know my friend Joel in Sydney, like, I don't know. And then we had the video, like, portfolio interview. They liked my work. They're like, are you up for traveling? I was like, of course I am. I just come from London. But they're basically, then the next day, they're like, yeah, so we need someone to come with us on a trip to Abu Dhabi next week. And then, yeah, come and work on this, do this website for us in Sydney. So I went from like thinking I've just quit my job, I'm going to Australia, I'm going to freelance in Melbourne, I'm going to do all this and that. And I got offered this like perfect freelance job for like a big agency doing vacation cover for like a Honda website. And I got this offer from Sydney to go to this new city that I didn't know anything about, had no research. And then go to Abu Dhabi felt like, even though that was great, like the pressure of going with this new company, with the new bosses to this place, listening to the client, doing the workshop, and then also like with the agency Melbourne job, it was like holiday cover. It was like straightforward. This was like, no, we need a designer to come, and yeah, you're gonna come with us in the brief, and then you're gonna be the designer who's gonna make this work. And like that was quite a lot of pressure, because I was like, I failed before, like am I gonna fail on this, and I'm gonna like ruin my confidence and stuff. But in
So
the end,
you've touched on a really interesting point there, Cisco, in terms of imposter syndrome, because that's one thing that a lot of juniors still feel. And you know, you feel like you've not really been tested at university. You're coming into the world of work, it seems so alien. But I guess what you're saying there is it's still completely normal to get that feeling, even though you've done it before, as an experienced professional.
100%. And it's like every time you change agency or situation or country, it starts again. Like you've gone from big agency, like where you do like your bit and little things, like people take your cup and put it in the washing dryer. Then you go to a small agency, you have to look after this stuff. You have to the boss is putting off the plugs to make sure the lighting and stuff you never thought about in a big agency. and then you get comfortable in a small agency, and then you go to a big agency again, and it's like different kind of pressure, different kind of speed, different kind of projects. You're dealing with like different. It's like it's always a different thing, and by the time you get used to it, you decide that you want to change, and you change, and it's always a bit more frightening than you expect. But
That's it.
I feel like I had that imposter syndrome for the whole first 6 months of being in Sydney and in this company and working on this project. And when I had my chat with the company, with my bosses about how it's going and maybe extending, I was surprised that they had nothing bad to say about me. I was like waiting for them to be like, yeah, we had to get this freelancer to do this, and yeah, why don't you do motion design? And but they were literally like, no, like, oh, so what did you think about us? And I was like, damn, I spent the whole 6 months, I spent so much time thinking that I was doing everything wrong and I wasn't good enough and I'm like should be like this and that, and it wasn't the case. Or maybe some of the things that I thought I don't know, like technical things that I might compare myself to other digital designers in this particular company, and not just this company, but like sometimes you're worrying about the wrong things, and sometimes you're doing a lot of good things that you're not even thinking about.
That's it. That's it. And I think you've demonstrated something really important there, which is versatility. As you mentioned, going from smaller to bigger agencies, I've been through that myself. And I think the best people are the people who just kind of get on with it, give it their best crack, but are also that also have a growth mindset. Kind of going, this is how we did it in the big agency, so this is how it has to be done. You can end up just kind of going, well, I think I know 80% of how it should be done, and I'm just going to kind of mold that to the situation, see how we go. And 9 times out of 10, that works for you. And as long as you put your best effort in, then what's stopping you?
Yeah, I think like now at my age and level and experience, like my advice to like younger people is, or like I've just grown in knowing myself as a like creative human, if that makes sense. Because like even like in a recent thing that's happened in the last 2 years, everyone was a expert in Adobe, and now you don't use Adobe, you don't use Photoshop, you use Sketch and stuff like that. And like so have that confidence in who you are as a creative, like because it's not just pushing pixels and knowing the plugins and stuff, it's also having an eye for choosing photography, for choosing the metaphor for this pitch that's going to like win the client over, and the kind of human things that maybe you've experienced in your family, in your travels, that you can bring to the table, that's like your perspective basically, not just your skills.
Totally. And that brings me to my nice point. At your stage in your career now, you're obviously overseeing juniors. What do you look for in juniors when interviewing?
I think mostly it's like I'm going to say a word, but I need to articulate it better. But it's basically like attitude and initiative. And like recently, I got one intern, and we had an intern before. And these people are so legendary, so bold. Like everyone should be like them, because we did a talk with the University Technology Sydney, and then I sit next to the phone, yeah, and then like I pick up the phone. It's normally like someone trying to sell us off, or someone trying to speak to my boss, and they're like, "Hey, can I have the email to send my portfolio through for internship?" I was like, "Okay, cool." And then like as I was saying to send to the normal address, I was like, "Yeah, send it to Francisco at 2." And she's like, "Oh, that's Cisco." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." She's like, "Yeah, so I listened to your talk, and I really thought you was really like, I really liked your process and blah blah blah, and I'd love to have an interview." And like, and same with the second intern girl. Like, she messaged through after seeing the talk, and then when we were interviewing them, like I kind of like that was the biggest push for me to say, let's take them on. To be honest, it's an internship is different from a junior, because it's like not as big of a commitment. You kind of and you're kind of taking them on to help them, like, and it was like more than what I saw in the portfolios, it was more the initiative they took to get in contact, to ask questions, to even be open with their weaknesses and stuff like that. And in truth, when they've got here, they've been really good. They've shown more than what their portfolio showed, and they've like been helpful and like been helpful to the projects and to the work. And but it was when it was like me sitting with my boss and saying like, "Oh, what do you think? Shall we take them on?" Like the biggest thing was like, look, these people reached out and they are in uni and they want to get experience in an agency. It's like COVID times and blah blah blah, and and also when they've been in the office and in the sitting at the desk, like they've continued that attitude. If I ask them to do anything like big or small or silly, they do it. Like I was like trying to give my own personal way of doing things. So whenever I go to a new agency, I like to bring my personality and do like a presentation to introduce myself. So I told them like, yeah, do a presentation. I was like giving them tips, like put a baby picture in there, put a like tell us some stuff you do outside of design, because I know that that's what agencies like, and people will then start a conversation with you. And I like having that attitude of someone that I can suggest something and they'll go and do it and they'll be better off for it.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And have definitely been at the front of the agency presenting those baby pictures before. And they're good fun and they're icebreakers, right? Because
Yeah.
it gives people a reason to talk with you. You
Yeah,
might have
because
something, yeah.
juniors are like, they're interns and everyone, they're going to be imposter syndrome. They're going to think I'm not good enough, or look at all these people, how they dress and how they act, and they're a proper professional designers. But when you start introducing some other stuff, oh, I like to bake, I like to do this. My background is like Vietnamese or whatever. Someone in the office who resonates that is going to talk to you. And like I've had those kind of, when you work in a big agency, when I've been in the lift and someone else from a different floor is now talking to me about the things that they see me do, or that I spoke about in the presentation. It's like I'm reaching my personality to more than just sitting down at my desk with my head down and doing my job.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And Cisco, for a lot of people watching this, they'll still be at university, possibly in their third year of uni. Hopefully, by the time they graduate, international travel will be more of a thing. You're a designer that has experience in both the UK and abroad.
Yeah.
Now, in your mind, what are some of the top tips for designers looking to work abroad?
Well, one of the reasons I came to Australia, I was working in London, and someone had told me like, yeah, you know, you can go to Australia before you're 30, and if you've worked in London agencies, you're like, they'll love you and blah blah blah. So, based on that, I don't have the experience of going to Australia or leaving the country with no experience. So, I'd say first thing is get your junior intern to junior kind of experience where you're comfortable at home. Like, look at the current situation with COVID. Is everything's unpredictable? Like, at least be comfortable that you can have a roof over your head. You can do internships. You can part time. You can get your experience. And if you get into like the big agencies, like that gives you a lot of kudos in an international place. But also like I really used say like my previous company, Publicist Sapient. Like there's just a massive big building of 4 floors of different people and different contacts. And yeah, because I made friends with people on the Friday drinks and stuff. Cannonball! When I left, I said a goodbye to email to the whole company saying, you know, like it's been a pleasure, blah blah blah. I'm going to Melbourne at the time. I was like, yeah, if anyone's got any contacts for me, um, or any introductions, please let me know. And yeah, people that left the company last year messaged me on LinkedIn. Yeah, dude. Yeah, put me in touch with this guy. We go for a drink. And so I left with a network of contacts. I then went on like, I'm a digital designer, so I went on like awards.com, awww awards.com, Site Inspire, and any other blogs, you know. And then I went on the directory and went through all the winners and saw what country they're from. And if they're from Australia, I opened up a new tab and then I saw if I liked them or not. And then I saw if they were in Melbourne. And then I made a list of all the companies. And then I chose the ones that I liked. And then I emailed them, and I was still in London like a month before, saying, yeah, I love your work. It looks sick. This project's cool. I'm a digital designer from London. And then when I got to Melbourne, I started to call those people and continue to email. And one of the interesting things from that was you obviously you don't get a feedback from all of them, but two of the companies are when I clicked on those links, they looked the luscious boutique design, thinking they're never going to contact me. They contacted me, and I went to their office, and then I remember getting there and there was 4 people. It was a small thing, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to get a job here. But also my tip is I didn't ask for a job. I asked everyone for a coffee and just to show my portfolio, and I said I'm a designer from London, and someone else can be hey, I'm a student, or I'm new in the city, or I'm looking to change from UX to visual design. Give that what's the interesting thing about you, and then don't ask for a job, or an interview. Ask for a coffee and to show your portfolio. And one of the ones in Melbourne were they were yeah, bring it. We don't have any work at the moment for you, but you're welcome to use our office space and bring your laptop and use our Wi-Fi, and
awesome.
That was cool. That is use that it kind of your cool thing of your being from a new country, and as an excuse, as an introduction, and yeah, start a network rather than knocking on everyone's door for a job. And people were, I'd show my portfolio and it weren't for them, but they'd be oh, I know a guy, you should meet. And treat it like that. Give yourself some a few months, 1 month to 3 months, save up money so you can do that.
Yeah, totally. And I think in terms of, you're absolutely right. People don't really want to have their brains picked. But if you say to them, hey, look, I just want to show you my portfolio, as you say, new in the country, just keen to meet new people and just, kind of get a bit of feedback, then 9 times out of 10, people will be able to give you half an hour of their time.
Yeah. And another thing is actually, there is certain networks out there. There's Creative Mornings, which is a talk, inspirational talk every Friday, or so one Friday in a month. So this is not COVID times, but there's the Design Kids, TDK Tuesdays, which is basically for young graduates. But these things are globally. So I met the Design Kids and Creative Mornings in London, but they do it in Melbourne, they do it in Sydney, and probably and different other cities around the world. So there is made networks already there for you to kind of join that are international.
Yeah, totally. And I'll link them in the bio of this video. So thanks for sharing those, Cisco.
Cool.
Throughout your journey in your career, you mentioned you've moved from not just different types of agency, big and small, but different industries. So more like product design, digital design, creative design, all kind of, I guess, in the realm of creative problem solving, let's say. Where do you find inspiration to find solutions to that sort of stuff? Because it can't just all be in advertising, right?
My personal inspiration and more my mission is always just about real people, people like my mom and dad. If I do a presentation and they don't understand it, then it's not good. I'm talking some nonsense that I have to explain to you why it's interesting. Same with design or problem solving. In S1T2, we're doing this project that's going to be for maybe I can't say it, but it's going to be in this big it's going to be in this big dome in Dubai, and you take your picture on this iPad and it's for families, and your character gets shot to the dome and all this epic cool stuff. But we have to the people have to go to this iPad, use it, get their camera facing the right place to take the picture for the right thing for it to render. And this has to be used by like, but it's for families. So for kids, little kids, teenagers, moms, dads, um, uh, English speakers, non-English speakers, Arabic, people with headscarves and all this type of stuff. And like, that's my main, like, the kind of creative or the like, the looking cool bit is the like designer stuff. We look on Instagram and Pinterest and blah, blah, blah. But the motivation to make something really cool or really successful is thinking about the people. And like we got people from Fiverr.com, like random people from the street, and like some tradie guy who was doing it. And it's like, it's not for me to make something for a designer in an exhibition to get it. I mean, like, tell me that's great. It's like, this tradie guy needs to get it, like this old lady needs to get it. And that's like the point. And when I was in London, I worked on the NatWest banking app. And like, some people might think it was a boring project because it wasn't like the sexy project, but like, we were doing things that people depended on every day in their lives, like to pay their employees, to check their savings, or previous to that, I worked on this other like money saving project. And one in the testing, like one of the ladies, she was kind of older lady, and this was a product aimed at like low income people. And she was saying she didn't like the slider because she has arthritis, and a tiny flick of her wrist, of her finger, makes it go from £100 to £200. And like, when I saw that video, that like, I had much more of a mission to make this right than I cared about the other bits, because I'm like, this real people are gonna, this old lady's gonna like take out too much money just because some designer tried to make it cooler.
What we're saying there is user-centered design,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it being universally user-centered design. And I
yeah,
think that's the holy grail, right? Where you design something that molds to the people that uses it,
yeah,
then you've kind of hit the money there, right?
yeah. I feel like the goal is people use it and don't even know how good it is. They just done it. There's no complaints. It's like, well, okay, my picture's on here. They haven't even thought about all the cues that we've given them and the like color coding and lights and stuff. They kind of just got it and don't even know why they got it.
Oh, totally. Like, the best user experience design is always seamless and
Yeah,
with the least barriers, right? And
yeah.
I could go down this rabbit's warren of stuff that's so interesting. But Cisco, what's been the most inspiring piece of advice you've ever had in your career?
And my friend was like, sometimes you got to be your own mentor. And I don't know if that's the most inspiring piece of advice I've had, but I like, nothing else has kind of come to my head more.
No,
more
but
than
I really like that, Cisco, because it assumes that you're not always going to be surrounded in cotton wool in your career.
Yeah,
There will be times where you have to pick yourself up, go with your gut. And as you said, as we were both saying earlier, fight that imposter syndrome to go, well, actually, based on my experience and what I know and what I've studied, this is what I think is correct. So I'm just going to go and do it. And
yeah,
that's you mentoring yourself, right?
yeah. And like, someone was telling me, like, do I have mentors in Australia? And like, I've been here 2.5 years, and I don't have official mentor. I definitely take mentorship from working so closely and around my bosses and seeing how they go about their job and winning pitches and solving problems and leading teams and stuff like that. But I don't have that mentor, and I rely on my friends. And then being in another country is like, having a new job is just part of the kind of other things you need mentorship or friends or like advice and
Or
so,
inspiration.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I've only recently taken to me being a mentor, and like working with like with students and unis and doing talks. And I want to do more of that, and I want to kind of, like, I want to do it my way, like with this current intern, as I said, like telling them to do a presentation. I was telling her like I always go for, it's just a me thing. Like, I always go for walks in the park. We work near a park here, and I always, in between like tasks, or like twice in a day, I might go for a walk in the park, and I'm like, step away from the computer. I'm looking at the dogs. I'm looking at Australians doing pull-ups and basketball and all the random stuff that happens in the park. But I did the same in London. I used to work near Brick Lane. I used to walk through the market, look at the earrings, look at the different stuff. And it's like if I spent 4 hours straight just working, trying to solve the problem on that project, at some point I feel like my batteries go down. And then when I walk, I'm like, I've got to think about whatever's distracting me in life, or like I come back to my desk like knowing what I can do in 15 minutes rather than me spending another hour just like stuck at it. And like, so I feel like now me kind of doing more mentorship is like, let me tell young people like how I do it, or yeah, like, and how I survive, and what you can, and also not pushing my, like, it's always like, this is just how I do it, and like, feel free to do how you want, but like, don't feel the pressure that you have to stay at your desk. Like, I'm gonna go for a walk, you can like take a break, or I like a cup of tea, you can do whatever you want. Like, and like, I feel like I want to be that mentor. Like in the future, if there's a like talks and stuff and everyone else is talking about like whatever they're talking about, I want to be, this is my perspective to being a creative person, to working in different companies, different countries, and not like having your soul crushed and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely death by PowerPoint.
Yeah.
So Cisco, as we draw towards the end of the interview, was there anything else you wanted to add, or any last bits of advice for anyone?
I feel like, so this is going for more like younger people starting off. This is my advice. Yeah, it's like, you're a creative person. You've chosen to do this because you are like, you've been creative since you were a child to a teenager. Your friends are creative. You listen to cool music. You have these inspirations from your family and everything, and you're gonna go into the world, like into this big world of offices and creative directors and levels of junior, midweight, senior, ladders and awards and all this type of stuff. Yeah, but make sure you still always keep in like close contact. You know that you're creative and why you're creative, and the other people that you're walking into the offices to, and you're like, you might be intimidated. This guy's a midweight designer. This is a creative director. They know exactly what they're talking about. Like, you of course need to learn the software, learn from the other people, like how to be better at doing your job, but don't fall for the trap that I've previously fell in, of like, that you're no longer creative, or that you're not, don't have the value as a designer. And I feel like in this current time, like I graduated 10 years ago, and now I feel like it's less so about getting a job, and you're trying to get a job, you're like taking your portfolio everywhere, you're getting rejected, you're struggling, and you're trying to like knock on the door. But now, these days, like with the internet, Instagram, like there's so much opportunity for you to like collaborate with people, with getting your work out there, taking on projects, even doing like freelance gigs and stuff like that. That like, that's kind of what I'm getting at, is you are creative regardless of you getting a job, or you being accepted by this company, or your boss thinking you're good. Like, you crack on, and you can have a boring job and do some cool exhibitions outside of work or whatever it is. Like, don't walk in like and think that everyone else is a better creative than you. Everyone else is good at doing their job, but you're coming in and you're bringing your perspective into like the advertising world or technology world or whatever it is.
Yeah, I love that. And that's just really about finding your own North Star and heading for it, right? And just believing in yourself and your capability, and trying your best. And ultimately, once you do that, you'll have an inevitable, fulfilling career.
Yeah, and I feel like everyone, you probably the same, like has been to that like low point where you doubt yourself and you compare and you're like, I'm not good enough. But so that's the advice to young people is starting off is that's gonna happen. That's like it's natural and you're gonna want to try and be as good as everyone else. But the main thing is like keeping yourself together and like believing in yourself.
Totally. Believing in yourself. And I think that feeling of imposter syndrome, you can almost spin that in a positive way because it means you're growing. It means you're learning because you feel uncomfortable, you're learning, right? And I think as you don't let it overwhelm you, then steady, over time, you'll incrementally get better. And before you know it, you'll be that person that you were looking up to all those years ago. That's what I've found anyway.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying, like choosing to change jobs or choosing to change country. Man, choosing to change country, I'm a pretty confident social guy. And my first 6 months in Australia, I struggled with making friends. And it's like you kind of, let's say you don't want imposter syndrome and you want to be only happy and comfortable. But there's a reason why you decide to leave a job or you decide to leave all your friends in London and go somewhere else. And then you go there and you realize it's more difficult than you expected. And imposter syndrome's all back again. But then there might be a time when you feel like comfortable in whatever you're doing and you want to change it. You want to start your own business and that's going to be a whole nother thing. So yeah, it's scary, but that's the advice is like, it's you need that for you to like grow.
Totally. Well, Cisco, I can't thank you enough for coming on today, my friend.
Cool. Thank you. It's been great.
Cheers, mate.
Nice one.